lives knowing that they are under constant threat of violence. Though even with that in mind, we are stricken with so much grief and surprise every time we lose a sibling in the community. It's hard not to feel that way. Even when so many of us in the trans community have dealt with the personal grief of losing a trans loved one, each new lost life hurts no less than the last. The violence against trans people cannot be understated. Our laws, our government, and the system in which we live in enables, and in some cases, encourages violence against us. While we are here today to commemorate Sam, he is no outlier. When we demand justice for Sam Nordquist, we do not ask for his murderers to simply be thrown in jail. We do not ask simply for a plaque bearing his name to be put up in some office building in DC. When we demand justice for Sam Nordquist, we demand accountability and change to the system that enabled his killing. Our politicians and leaders will express condolences and sadness at the murder of Sam Nordquist, but know that every single one of them have hands as red as his killers. A popular saying is, "My existence is resistance." I'm sorry to say, but that just won't cut it anymore. I used to say it myself, from the very mountaintops. But in today's climate, simply existing won't just cut it anymore. When that very existence is jeopardized by the system we live under, we must resist for the right to exist. Rest assured, we will remember his name. In fact, we will not stop saying it until we see justice, no matter how long it takes. Know that you are not alone, and that the community is here for you to lead. Thank you. So again, thank you everybody for coming out here and attending this vigil. We're going to be opening it up here in a second to our speakers. We have speakers lined up, but hey, if you'd like to speak spontaneously, if you have something on your mind, just pull me aside and let me know. I'd say we'll have our first speaker come up here. Everybody welcome Joe from DFW Anti-War.
Hey, I just want to make sure, is everyone okay with being recorded?
I'm good.
Okay.
Everybody good?
Cool.
Okay. I want to thank PSU for inviting me to speak and to have space at this vigil. This is very impactful to me as a non-binary person, but the organization that I do most of my political work with is DFW Anti-War Committee, and it's important to me to draw a connection between this murder and the system that we're living in that allows murders like this to happen, not just here, but across the world. When the United States military occupies places abroad, they consistently bring with them sexual violence, assault, and even murder, particularly of the trans people in the places that we occupy. But in the political climate that we're living in, we don't have the luxury of simply mourning this individual without speaking to this system. And it's important to me to name the things that are going on around us, that all of us have been seeing that are happening. And the attacks on our communities and the communities around us of other marginalized people. For one, we see that the Trump administration has been doing everything in its power to scapegoat trans people for the failures of this system that neither political party will address. We see Trump literally saying that America used to be the most wealthy country in the world until trans people came around and started getting so many surgeries and using up all of our money, which is an absurd thing to say, but that doesn't, its absurdity doesn't mean it's dangerous. And unfortunately, the so-called opposition, the Republicans, the Democratic Party, have been explicit in saying that they will leave trans rights to the states. And to people living in states like Texas, to people living in states like Florida, we know that we are like the petri dish of the oppression of trans people and the oppression of immigrants. And that the people in power will do everything that they can to see how far they can push things here
before they move it to other states. And I have loved ones who are making very concrete plans to leave Texas because of things like HB 3399, which some of you may have heard of. It's a House bill to take the existing ban of trans health care that currently applies to children and to just copy or replace everywhere it says children to put person in order to make trans health care illegal for everyone in Texas. There are questions about if that will be able to pass, but we have to recognize that this is what they're trying to move towards, and they're going to pull the rest of the country with them. And that the murder of Sam Nordquist was someone who lived in Minnesota who was murdered in New York, and the political climate that we see here in its extreme in Texas exists in every other state in this country. And I'm never going to tell people, particularly friends of mine who are trans, who have children, or who are the parents of trans children, who are making very concrete plans to leave, what they should do or what they're obligated to do. But what I want to make very clear is that wherever we go, these attacks are not going to stop at the border of the states that we live in. And if some people can fight it better somewhere else, I encourage them to do it. But what I need everyone to recognize is that there is, unfortunately, and it grieves me to say it, there is not a safe place in this country for trans people if we are not fighting for trans people across the entire country. And what I would like more than anything to see is unity between the people on the extreme in states like Texas, in states like Florida, building bonds, building organization with the trans people in other states who can expect to see this more and more the farther our political climate shifts towards the right. And I want to leave people with something I find really hopeful. A political movement that's really been influential on me as an organizer is the movement for HIV people with groups like ACT UP, like TAG. These are people who were dying of HIV, who were being actively neglected by a government who was happy to leave us to die because the right people were being killed by HIV/AIDS. And it is gay people, gay men, lesbians, trans people, bisexual people, and our allies who stood up and who fought and who won treatment for people with HIV/AIDS to prevent the blindness of HIV/AIDS patients, to change the way that HIV/AIDS drugs were researched, and to ultimately win the drugs that are currently in use today. And that fight took place under Republicans and it took place under Democrats. And we don't have the luxury of choosing what political climate we have to fight in. And that political climate does not determine our success. What determines our success is our level of organization and our dedication to fighting for what we deserve. And what I hope to see in the coming years, during the Trump administration, after the Trump administration, what I want to see is higher and higher levels of organization in every sector of society, in the streets, in the halls of power, and on campuses. And I want to celebrate what PSU is doing with their demand for gender-inclusive housing. Because the fight for trans people has to be happening everywhere, and it has to be happening on this and every other campus. Because things are going to get worse for trans people if we don't fight, but when we fight, we can win. Thank you.
Of unity within the queer community, other than the rallying against the government's sheer neglect of the AIDS epidemic. And I think it's a really beautiful example that our sort of forerunner set for us, especially when these days the right tries so hard to divide the queer community, specifically separating trans people, right, from lesbians, gay people, and bisexual people. So I think it's very important now, more than ever, that we have unity within the queer community and within all struggles, really. If you guys are curious about our gender-inclusive housing campaign, feel free to ask any one of us in PSU about it. We have an entire binder here. We can talk about it But other than that, I'd like to invite Katie from Career Social Work up.
Hey guys, just to introduce myself again, I'm Katie, she, her. I'm coming here to represent the Career Social Work Association, but I'm also just coming here as a career person who's once again saddened but not surprised by the current events of today. Sam Nordquist was a member of our community, the LGBTQ+ community, and he was open about his identity as a Black trans man, but above all, he was human. Those who knew Sam spoke of his love for animals and people. I looked into it, and then it said he worked at a group home for vulnerable adults. He had a mother, a sister, and friends who cared about him. He was a human being. And he was beloved by family and friends, and they've spoken of the love he put out into the world. Unfortunately, that love was silenced. And now the world is joining and remembering the light that Sam provided to those in his life. No one should have to go through what Sam went through in his final moments. And because he is a double minority, he was at more risk than anyone else in the world. His voice may now be silenced, but his compassion and love can still be carried on. Many of law enforcement are trying to say that Sam Nordquist's killing could not be a hate crime due to suspects of his murder also being a part of the LGBTQ+ community as well. However, transgender individuals, especially trans people of color, have historically been targeted even within the LGBTQ+ community itself.
That's right.
And this is the time more than ever where we need to stick together, and we cannot have fighting within ourselves. We cannot risk not supporting each other, because if trans people don't exist, then we all will not exist. In a time where the T of the LGBT is being removed from existence, it's more important than ever to support our transgender folks and friends. And if you guys haven't seen it yet, the government is literally trying to take out the T of LGBT. So that's something that's genuinely happening, and they're trying to erase trans people. And then if trans people go, everyone else will follow too. But trans people are human just like anybody else, and that is not something that I should need to state as much as it should be, as I am stating. But the truth is that it's a very scary time in history right now, where many people view transgender people of color as less than human. And hate crimes like these are the unfortunate proof of it. So I just want to say that transgender individuals have always existed, still exist, and will always exist in the future. And Sam Nordquist will forever be honored and remembered in our community. Thank you guys for listening. Rest in power, Sam Nordquist.
Thank you, Katie. I want to unite with everything you said. Tries the government might to erase the existence of trans people from their records, from their policies, from any sort of welfare that they may offer. I guarantee that we aren't going anywhere. Even in death, our memories cannot be erased, and we are here to ensure that. Going on with the folks from Career Social Work, I'd like to invite Grace up here with a statement from the president.
Hi, I'm Grace. I'm from the Social Work Council, and our president, Shariah, couldn't be here tonight, but she wrote a statement for me to read. So, the Social Work Council expresses its profound sorrow at the death of Sam Nordquist. We believe the actions leading to his death were inexcusable and demand accountability. Mr. Nordquist's passing highlights the urgent need for a safer environment for transgender individuals, allowing them to live authentically without fear of violence. We urge the New York justice system to formally recognize the crimes committed against Mr. Nordquist as hate crimes, reflecting the hateful nature of their acts. The targeting of the transgender community within the LGBTQIA+ community demands our immediate attention and collective action. Something a lot of my professors say is it's not the time to be an ally, it's the time to be a co-conspirator. Mr. Nordquist's tragic death highlights a systemic failure to protect vulnerable members of our society. To prevent future tragedies, we advocate for increased collaboration between law enforcement and social workers to ensure effective and timely response to potential threats and the appropriate classification of hate crimes. This proactive approach is crucial for deterring violence and supporting the transgender community. We call for comprehensive strategies to address the violence faced by the historically marginalized group, and we hope that in the future wellness checks will become higher priorities to prevent deaths like Sam's in the future. And I'd just like to say that his friends and family are here, love him, his community is here, and love him and see him, and that may he rest in power.
I want to thank the community for really coming out and showing support in a time like this. Before we move on to our last couple speeches, specifically from Lily and James, who is on their way, was there anybody here who wanted to speak that might not have been on the list, but might have something to say, even if it's just something like super short or it's on your mind? Yeah? Yes, please, come on.
I don't really have a lot to say. I didn't win anything, but I'm just gonna say, like, I don't know. It's a scary time we're living in right now, and it's just, I don't know. Someone who is also black and a trans person, I don't know, it feels almost asinine that this has to happen on such a consistent basis, and that so few people acknowledge it, and that the people in charge just don't seem to care about us in any sort of way. And obviously they don't even just not care about us, they want us to be gone forever and just disappear. But we've always existed. We're not going to stop existing. I know I'm not going to stop existing. And I just want to say, like, I don't know, everybody, we just need to be strong and like keep moving however we can and do whatever we can and try to be yourself. Keep safe, but be yourself at the same time. Like, make sure, I know a lot of people are like in the closet and stuff. Make sure you just have people who care about you, people you can talk to. And again, like we're talking about organizing stuff. If you can, please organize. If you can't, just know that, you know, people care about you and know you have someone to care about you, and that there are people who want you to be safe. I just wanted to say something like that. But thank you so much. And happy last day of life.
Hello, everybody. Most of y'all know me at this point, but if you don't, I am Lillian. I'm the president of the Progressive Student Union, and I want to talk about fear. I've been feeling a lot recently. I imagine many of you have as well. Fear for your own safety, fear for your loved ones, fear for your friends, your family, your partners, fear for people you don't even know. And after such a horrific case, it's hard not to feel just paralyzed with fear. I know that when I first learned of the case, I was almost numb at this point because of how routine something like this is. But as time went on, I felt again just overwhelmed more and more with just a sense of dread, like that everything's hopeless, that it could be me next. What am I going to do to keep myself safe? Like Joe said previously, I thought about it. My first thoughts were like, I've got to get out of here. I've got to leave this state, right? Like I don't feel safe as a trans person in Texas. And then I thought about it. And I thought about what that means and what kind of example that's setting to all of the trans people who can't flee Texas. To all of the people who can't just uproot their lives or find somewhere else to go. And even for those of us who can, where will we be going to? There isn't a safe place for trans people. We are, in Texas, we are the petri dish. We're the lab rats of the Republican experiment to try and eradicate LGBT people off the face of the earth. So where can we go? And I was reminded by a friend that really, even when we are afraid, that is the time where it is most necessary for us to show courage in the face of fear. And it's most necessary for us to stand up and to fight back against oppression and to stand united with each other. I know, again, like I've said, there's a lot of fear. I mean, just as like if I can get a raise of hands, who all has felt like just afraid for their safety? Like if you're a queer person, like who's just felt afraid with these attacks on LGBTQ people recently? Right, like almost all of us. And that's not going to stop if we decide to uproot our lives, if we decide to go elsewhere, if we decide to flee. And even if I was able to sail off to an island somewhere where it's safe and there's no Republicans who can attack me, there's no transphobia, what would I be thinking about? Like I would be haunted by the people who couldn't be there, who can't uproot their lives. What about the transgender children who are going to continue to exist? Trans people have existed since the dawn of time. There are always going to be new trans people who are born. What are we saying to them if we leave them and leave them to the wolves? I can't live with that. I have to fight. We have to fight. Even if it kills me. Because when I see a case like Sam Nordquist, it reminds me, it brings up all of the fear and terror that I've felt throughout my life. And just imagining somebody dying in such a horrific way, it's like, no, this can't continue to happen. This can't continue to be normal in our society. We have to stand up and fight back. Because all we have is each other. All we have is each other, and if we're not willing to stand up and fight for each other, what's going to happen to us? How can we say that we are proud to be who we are if we're not willing to stand up and fight back for our own? If we're not willing to mourn those who are gone, but not just mourn, to scream in anger, if we are not willing to stand up and say, fuck this is enough. I know there's a lot of emotions tonight with such a case. And it's not helped by the people who demean us or who say that, oh, this isn't a hate crime, you're being silly. They were members of the killers were members of the LGBT community themselves. This can't be a hate crime. It's ridiculous. It shows a profound lack of understanding for many of those who claim to be our allies. And so if there's anything that I can say here tonight, it's just to call the members of the LGBT community to stand up with each other and fight back in the face of these ongoing attacks against our rights and against our lives. And please join an organization. I know I'm the leader of the Progressive Student Union. I know that, I would love it if every single person here showed up to all of our actions. But join any organization, join somebody. The point is that we have to stand united. We have to. If you can't join an organization, if you don't have the time, check in on your friends, check in on your family, see how they're doing, hold them close, make sure that they're okay, because we have to stand up for each other. I'm rambling a little bit here, I feel, but again, I just want to say thank you all for coming out here tonight to mourn the loss of another transgender brother who was taken from us. I just want to say that his sacrifice will not be in vain. For every one of us that they kill, there will be more of us. We will never go away. We will never disappear, and we will never be silent. I just want to thank you all for coming out here tonight, and I just want to I know that we're still waiting for one more speaker from the Progressive Student Union. But again, I want to give an open invitation. If my words have inspired you to stand here and speak on the state of things, or how you feel, or mourning this loss, or anything, just please speak. We have to be loud. We have to be proud. We have to stand up for each other. Thank you.
I want to thank Lily for that really beautiful speech. It was great. This is a really trying time for a lot of us, and like Lily said, I'd be remiss if I didn't admit that
That was maybe just sitting behind you.
I'd be remiss if I didn't say that I didn't, I wouldn't even say occasionally, if I didn't frequently think about like going off to like Seattle or like Chicago, you know? But like Joe said, it isn't much better everywhere else. This violence against trans people exists, no matter where. Even when I'm coming from a place like Texas, where it's extreme. And other than that, I can't bring myself to like leave my friends who can't, you know, who don't have the privilege of being able to move. I mean, I don't have the privilege of being able to move, but it's really hard to leave the fight when it's so important, especially in a place like Texas or Florida, right? So I encourage everybody to, again, join an organization if you aren't already. Get your boots on the ground. There are going to be a lot more events like this coming in the future. And before I hand it off to our final speaker, I just wanted to plug a couple resources for the community. There's the Trans Lifeline. As many of you guys might have heard, the suicide prevention hotline has ceased training for helping trans people, and it's really terrible. So I recommend just looking up Trans Lifeline on Instagram or wherever they are. Their number, I'm just going to read it out, but their number is 877-565-8860. It is a peer support and crisis hotline for the community, set up by trans people and other queer folks, of course. We also have Finn's Place in Fort Worth, who offers a lot of events and resources like self-defense classes that is a really good and positive thing to get into. And yeah, I'll hand it off to our final speaker over here before we wrap up.
Hi, my name is James, for those of you who don't know me. I'm with PSU here. I'm a trans man, so, sorry, I've never spoken at a thing before. In the late months of 2024, Linda Nordquist, mother of Sam Nordquist, called the Canandaigua Police Department in New York State requesting a wellness check for her son. He had plans to return home in early October, but had not yet returned nor answered messages or calls from his family. Despite her call, not only was this wellness check not made, the police reported that they had never been in contact with Ms. Nordquist, and suggested that she was, quote, confused about which law enforcement agency they had called, despite call records showing that she had in fact called their department. Later in December of the same year, Sam went into the social services department and told an employee that he was having his cell phone use controlled and was trying to come up with an escape plan. Sam was supposed to return to the DSS office 5 days later, but never returned. Despite this, there was no investigation, no follow-up, and no attempt of any kind to see if Sam was safe. These so-called public servants are supposed to be there to keep us safe, and yet at every turn, they failed Sam Nordquist, just as they have failed countless others before. They have reiterated to the country that they do not serve us and they do not protect us. In watching the interviews with Sam's mom, I felt a kind of weird familiarity. His mom talks a lot in the interviews about how her and her son were very close. And quite frankly, their relationship reminds me a lot of the one I have with my mom. And watching her speak and seeing in her face this fear and sadness and love for her son, I see a glimpse of my own mother, who on many calls and many times has told me about her fear for me and my friends and my partner living out and trans in the country as it is now. Despite this, there is still hope. In times when things are dangerous and difficult, we must hold together tighter and stronger than ever. We must be more community-minded than ever. Our community has been through many difficult times, and through all of them we've only grown stronger. Sam's murder sets a terrifying precedent for our community today, but we cannot let it scare us back into hiding. Law enforcement has shown in this case and many others that they will not protect us, at least not without a fight. So we will fight, and we will protect one another. We will continue to be trans, and we aren't going anywhere.
Before we close it out here, I want to thank again everybody for showing up and attending this vigil. The number of people who came out here tonight absolutely floored me, and I'm very happy that we could all be out here in these numbers commemorating Sam Nordquist's life, building community as well, which we need more than anything else during these times. Before I close it out, I want to invite everybody to just hang out afterwards, socialize, talk to each other about what's on your mind. Just everybody here is really cool, so if you want somebody to talk to, I'm sure anybody here would be more than happy to speak to. I also invite folks to swing by our table, ask us about our current gender inclusive housing campaign. And yeah, thank you again everybody for showing up tonight.